against another Lugia. So, you know, most of the time you are sort of prepared for the mirror match, but especially now that you know that Lugia is such a huge part of the meta share. So here we go, kicking off our Swiss round 7, Riley Hubert versus Piper Lepine. We saw the fist bump and we are jumping into this match.
Ooh.
So starting with Piper, unfortunately, just an attach of the Aurora Energy, discarding that Archeops into the discard pile, but passing straight over to Riley.
Yeah, that is tough, and Piper knew it right away. You could see by her body language she was not pumped about that opening hand. You have a huge advantage in the Lugia mirror match when you go first because you are the first player who has an opportunity to use that Summoning Star V-Star power. The issue, though, for Piper is that she was unable to get down a Lugia V, and a Pokemon has to be in play for a turn before you can evolve it into a V-Star. So she was not able to get that Lugia V down. There will be no option to use a Lugia V-Star on turn 2. So even though she got an Archeops down, she is not happy with how this turn finished.
Yeah, that is definitely a huge disadvantage, especially in the mirror as well. Like you said, Chip, you want to be the first person getting to those milestones that you have to check off in order to take the lead in this matchup. So things could still turn out some spicy way, potentially, depending on what happens here. But that is definitely a huge setback there for Piper. But now we are over on Riley's side, starting with the Dunsparce here. So, you know, it's been kind of contended, will Dunsparce stay in the list? Will Manaphy stay in the list?
Right.
Riley is playing that Dunsparce in the list as well as Oranguru. And Lugia V does come down to, with that capture energy that brought out the Oranguru onto the bench as well.
Yeah, both of these players actually choosing to still play Dunsparce and Manaphy in the deck, and probably just anticipating that the Regis would be a relatively popular deck this weekend.
And it is.
Yep, and that is going to be something that I'm sure has paid off nicely for both of these players. Riley Hubert will choose to just get down Lugia and pass, holding off on using the Research in hand. He did have Evolution Incense as well, and I think that's because he wants to guarantee the Lugia V-Star next turn. Though that is very interesting. I don't think I'm missing anything. He just did not play a supporter that turn.
Yeah, I don't think so. I didn't see a supporter go down. I think Piper on this turn actually top-decked the Lugia V because...
Must have, yeah.
Yeah, you saw it come down right away. And now we're going into an Evolution Incense here for another Archeops as well. One is already in the discard, but we need to get the second one discarded as well. And that's exactly what's happening here with that Quick Ball, allowing Piper to also search out another basic Pokemon, opting for that Lugia V now. So we are seeing the Lugias finally hit the bench here, the field, but just slightly too late, but still. Piper's trying to line up her board as best as possible.
Yeah, Piper's advantage of going first is gone. So she's basically having to play this game like she went second. She's having to put down 2 Lugia V, which you don't really want to do unless you're going second in the mirror match, because it's going to be something that is a liability potentially later on, but you need to have the option to get down a Lugia V-Star next turn. So both Lugia V having to come down.
Yep, absolutely. And in the mirror match, especially for both these players, you know, obviously the basic function of the deck is the same. Of course, get those Archeops out as soon as possible. We're over here on Riley's turn now, looking to do the exact same thing, really get those milestones off as soon as you can, but it's also getting those Lugias, but also being able to transition into one prize attackers into your other Lugia, trying to lead on the prize cards as much as possible in the mirror match is so important. So making sure you have all your attackers ready to go, your alternate attackers, and make sure you just are ahead in prize cards. You're forcing your opponent to take one prize card knockouts while you're taking as many prize cards as you can at the same time.
We do see the professor's research. Riley, wants to make sure he benches that Eviltal first. And we'll go with the research, ditching the hand to draw 7. And right away does find the Lugia V-Star.
Yep, and that is huge because we can see that Summoning a Star ability pop off here for Riley, bringing out any Archeops that are in the discard pile onto the bench. Of course, you can only use 1 V-Star ability per game, so you can only bring this out once. So usually you want to have 2 Archeops, and that's exactly what Riley has here. Now able to use that Archeops ability, Primal Turbo, to accelerate special energy up to 2 per Archeops onto one of your Pokemon on the field. So that is why this deck plays so many special energies, so many different types, and that's why you're able to play so many one prize card attackers like the Evital that has such a heavy energy requirement, but you can line up tons of energies to be able to just take knocks with it, and that's how this deck functions. But those energies going on to that Lugia V-Star on the bench.
Riley will load this Lugia V-Star all the way up. Does still need to move the Dunsparce out of the active, but I do think there was an Aurora energy in hand. So at a minimum, that can move this Dunsparce to the bench. It's a little awkward with this deck. Like, Capture Energy is the best energy to accelerate with Primal Turbo, right? Because you don't want to use your Powerfuls until maybe a little later, and you definitely don't want to use your Auroras on Lugia V-Star. But Capture Energies are pretty nice to be able to get your basic attackers out later on in the game. So it feels a little weird when you have to pull them out of the deck, but it's definitely the right choice here for Riley. And he pulls them out in combination with the V-Guard Energy, which is going to make it a little bit harder potentially for Piper to respond.
Yep, subtracting, I guess, 30 damage from your opponent's attacks from their V Pokemon. So yeah, that's definitely an important energy to have on that Lugia V-Star as well. So we are over here on Piper's side now. Riley having taken that 2 prize card knockout on the Lugia V, that was kind of just ripe for knocking out there for Riley on that turn. Piper on the back foot here. Evolving into that Lugia V-Star now on the bench. We're seeing a Quick Ball to discard an Ultra Ball, get out another basic Pokemon from the deck. And of course, those 2 Archeops have been placed onto the bench from that Summoning Star ability on Piper's Lugia V-Star.
And a Rangaroo will be the grab, it looks like, off of Quick Ball. Was debating getting the Manaphy for just a second. That makes me wonder if Piper is anticipating Riley to have the Raikou in the deck. But for now, we'll just get the Rangaroo, and we see that first Primal Turbo.
Yeah, I think the Raikou is a pretty popular inclusion among most Lugia players, at least that I've seen out in the field today. So I don't think that is a bad thing to guess on for sure. And having it in your own deck too as well.
So Piper does load the couple of Capture Energies up on the Radiant Charizard. That makes me think she must have a Choice Belt in hand and wants to go for the KO on this active. I actually don't think I see it, though. So no Choice Belt.
Yeah.
Not going to get the knockout on this active, but maybe just wants to, you know, hit it pretty hard.
Yep, it is going to be a Marnie instead for Piper. So drawing 5 cards, Riley drawing 4 after they both shuffle their hands and put it at the bottom of the deck here.
You did not find the Choice Belt. Is just going to have to be content attacking with this active, doing 250. This can set up for some Raikou plays maybe later on. You know, if Riley's Eviltal comes into the active spot, Piper can use Raikou to knock out the Eviltal and take prizes on the Lugia on the bench, since Riley won't have had the opportunity to put Manaphy into play since his bench is full currently.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to be seeing the Radiant Charizard. I believe Piper actually started with the Radiant Charizard.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no Lugia. But yeah, now being able to utilize it, of course, with the Excited Heart ability, subtracting energy cost from the attack based on how many prize cards your opponent has taken. So able to activate that Combustion Blast for that strong 250 for just those 3 energy that are on that Radiant Charizard.
Piper choosing to get nothing off the Capture Energy. Could have potentially gotten the Manaphy, but for now, we'll just go with the attack. It looks like another Primal Turbo potentially being utilized here. Get some energy onto the Lugia just in case.
Yep, always want to try to utilize as many of your 4 turns that you get. You get 1 energy 4 turn that you can play. So
yep.
as many energy that you can line up on your field, get a setup as possible is definitely important to do. So we are going to see that Combustion Blast from the Radiant Charizard. Of course, when you use that move during your next turn, the Radiant Charizard can't use that move again unless there's some sort of switch out effect that allows it to. So that is going to do 250 damage onto that active Lugia V-Star on Riley's side. And now we're back over onto Riley's fields, starting with an Archeops.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what Riley goes for here. I don't think I saw like a boss or anything in his hand, so not going to be any opportunities to chase 2 prizes this turn, I don't think, at least. Looks like a couple of energies coming onto the Eviltal on the bench.
Yeah, that Evital is huge in this deck, especially in matchups where you have really big, beefy Pokemon. You can just pretty much knock them out for nothing, really. So that is definitely a huge inclusion to this deck. It does take a lot of energy, but that is no hard feat for a Lugia V-Star deck with those Archeops being able to use that Primal Turbo. And as you just saw it there, Riley got so many energies lined up onto that Yveltal to
Let's
be
see
able
if there's
to
a boss or Serena here. Yeah, he does have the boss. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is massive. And Piper, yeah,
Oh.
sending up this Lugia, you can tell she's not pumped about this.
Nope, knowing exactly what Riley is targeting down, of course, with this Yveltal, and we are going to be seeing this knockout for no damage as well, Chip, from that Yveltal's amazing destruction attack to take out that Lugia V-Star.
Now, this does open up the play for Piper that I mentioned with the Raikou.
Yep.
Can take 3 prizes potentially this turn. She will promote the Archeops that can retreat pretty easily. That capture energy attached can go down no problem.
Yep, that's definitely important there, being able to have pivot outs, always sending up your floater when you have to promote something. Okay, we do see an Evolution Incense here from Piper searching through the deck, seeing what is actually in there. I believe I saw the Raikou in there. I don't think it's in the prize cards.
Yeah, Raikou, I believe, is
Or is it
actually in her
hands?
hand,
Okay.
yes. But now the question, I think, is becoming, what energy cards does she have? Does she have all of those Auroras? And I think I just see 2 potentially there. There's the 3rd, okay. Hiding there at the bottom of the deck. So
Yep.
let's see that Raikou come down, and it seems like Amazing Shot is a good play this turn.
Yeah, so if you're kind of confused there, the Evolution Incense, you don't have to actually retrieve something from it. You can just use it, look through your deck, shuffle up, and put your deck back, which is exactly what we're seeing here. Of course, we're also seeing that Primal Turbo from that Archeops that's in the active position to get those energy onto the Raikou to be able to use that amazing shot. So this is huge. It's always cool to see that Raikou actually come into effect, Chip.
And this is a really smart play from Piper as well, putting the V-Guard energy onto this Raikou, meaning that it will not be able to be KO'd by a Luminion, and it'll be harder for Riley to get the KO even with an Archeops. Archeops, excuse me, is not going to be affected by V-Guard, but really limiting specifically the Luminion play, which is normally something you may want to do. Riley, instead of going after this Lugia, is actually going to just chase down that Guru, try to target that prize, that extra card draw potential from Riley's side.
Absolutely. So now we're back over on Riley's side, only having to take 2 more prize cards. Of course, everything that is on Piper's side right now on the field is a 1 prize card Pokemon. So Riley having to work through that. Lots of damage counters as well, that 250 from that Radiant Charizard on that active Lugia V-Star, which is also 2 prize cards that Piper could easily take off the field too. So this is actually getting pretty close here, Tip.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing that actually this V-Guard energy does for Piper, excuse me, is it means that Riley is unable to use Stoutland. Stoutland won't be able to come in and take the double dip Fangs KO on the Raikou. And Riley could theoretically win if he had Stoutland plus Boss onto the Oranguru, but that's so unlikely. And, you know, as Piper, you're still going to force your opponent to have it either way. For now, though, it looks like Riley will be content to just load 1 energy onto this active Lugia V-Star, and he'll probably load up some energies onto this benched Radiant Charizard.
Yep, that looks like that's exactly what we're seeing here, Chip. Loading up these energies onto the field. But yeah, you mentioned Stoutland. We haven't even talked about Stoutland at all, but it's actually a pretty major card, or at least it can be, depending on the scenario you get into with the mirror match. So that is definitely a huge inclusion, allowing you to take additional prize cards. So a 1 prize Pokemon becomes a 2 prize Pokemon, and that can really close out a lot of games for you as well.
Yeah, and this is some great information for Piper as well moving forward. She sees that Riley has down the Heat Fire energy, and we saw already that he played the Hiding Darkness energy. So he's got both copies of those cards in his deck. A lot of players will choose to play one or the other a lot of times, but Riley, realizing how powerful Charizard and Yveltal are as attackers, wanted to have the option for both of these extra energy cards.
Yep, so we are going to see just the knockout there on that Raikou from Riley's side. Now it's over to Piper to clean things up here, starting off with a quick ball, discarding an Archeops, but not being able to take that game. Piper is just going to head into this next game against Riley.
It's going to be a little awkward. We're getting into it here.
Yeah, speaking of Ultra Balls, there was 2 Ultra Balls in the prize cards there for Riley, as well as Aevital in the prize cards too. Starting with a Manaphy on both players' sides here, Chip.
Yep.
Of
And Piper
course.
was able to draw into the capture energy for turn, so
Yes.
is now going to breathe a sigh of relief and get
Thank
down this Lugia V.
goodness. Yeah, you see that first card right there up front. That is major for Piper, so that capture energy was huge for this turn. So definitely very important. It's kind of funny seeing both of our players here start with the Manaphies, so it's already in play at this point now, Chip.
Yep, pretty solid start here for Piper. Outside of this hand, she's outside of this turn, I should say, she's got a pretty solid hand. It looks like a couple Archeops and a Luminion, so we could see a research on the next turn and very likely a Summoning Star, V-Star Power. Going to be feeling pretty good about this spot. Neither of these players really mind starting the Manaphy. It's actually, I guess, if you know your opponent plays Raikou, something you want potentially to play.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Riley does know that Piper does play it because we saw in the last game. So that is definitely, like I said, just something that's already in play here for you to start. But let's see if Riley can get his own Lugia, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. Put onto the bench. There's a lot of discard cards in hand, but there is no Archeops, which is the one thing you do want to discard. Of course, using these cards, you can get one out, which is exactly what we're going to see, that Ultra Ball, discarding an Aurora Energy and a Heat Energy as well to get out a Pokemon from the deck. Of course, we did, as we said before, Chip, see 2 Ultra Balls as well in the prize cards for Riley. So. Yeah. Dwindling down a lot of those discard materials. They're still quick balls, so.
Yeah, still ways to get rid of those Archeops. You also have Aurora energy as you attach return, but this hand is pretty awkward. Riley's got like 4 energy cards in his hand, has to discard 2 to the Ultra Ball, does find the Archeops and discard it now. The question becomes, what do you do? Luminion is going to be the obvious choice, and is it Marnie or Research? And looks like Riley recognizes that he cannot afford to research away those extra energy cards. Even though it's less cards for him, he just has to go with the Marnie.
Yeah, you still have to make sure you're conserving as much energy as possible. You're using so many energies in this matchup that you need to really keep track of all of them in this set. So we are going to be seeing this Marnie from Riley here in this turn, which means both players are going to shuffle their current hands, put it at the bottom of their deck. Riley would be drawing 5 cards while Piper draws 4. So you can actually put your opponent in a really sticky situation. This is pretty huge, getting that hand disruption as well from Riley's point of view. Pretty great.
Yeah, I mean, this is what you want to do in the mirror, especially when your opponent did not put any Archeops into the discard pile. It's now going to be even harder for Piper to pull off the Summoning Star. Well, I thought. She drew into the second Evolution Incense for turn, and I think has Serena waiting in hand.
Oh,
so
my goodness.
Going to have a pretty easy time getting off the Summoning Star V-Star power now.
Wow, when you Marnie your opponent into the perfect hands, pretty much, is what just played out in front of us.
You would hear Riley laughing about it as well, chuckling that, yep, you just got into double Archeops off the Marnie. Cool.
Marnie, double-edged sword there sometimes, I swear. Okay, so we see both those Evolution Incenses coming down, getting those Archeops. This is huge because now we are going to be able to see the discard of them from the hand if there is. Oh, no, you said there's a Serena. Yep. So we're chilling. We're going to see that Summoning Star.
Even better than Serena.
Oh, that's a Research. Oh, here we go. Research, discarding that entire hand, drawing into a fresh 7 cards. So in a really great position now here for Piper. A fresh 7 hand. You love to see it. All from a Marnie too, Chip.
Yep, all off of the Marnie. 2 Archeops getting slammed into play as soon as they can be with that V-Star power. And now Piper has some choices. What do you attack with in this spot? There's the Yveltal, there's the Radiant Charizard, and there's even Lugia itself. You do run a little bit of a risk if you choose to attack with Lugia here, that Riley would be able to build up to a 1-hit knockout on your Lugia V-Star with a bunch of powerful energies. But it might be the type of situation where you just kind of have to force Riley to have it. Instead, though, Piper looks like she wants to load up the Archeops as an attacker.
Yeah, I mean, the Archeops does have that speed wing for 120 damage, even more if you play any powerful colorful energy, but it's actually going to be less because there's a double turbo on the Archeops there. So, but yeah, still being able to at least get a little bit of damage here out on the field. Like I said, the way this deck functions is you're kind of pivoting into these one prize card attackers for a lot of this game and taking out as many knockouts as you can, while also simultaneously having as little liability on your board state as possible. So we are going to see some more energies coming down here, that heat energy, and another double turbo being put onto that Evital for that second Archeops Primal Turbo.
Yep, setting that option up so that if this active Archeops goes down, or the Archeops that I'm assuming will go into the active spot this turn, if that does get KO'd by Riley on the next turn, you're still just one Primal Turbo away from powering up Evital as an attacker.
Yep, most definitely, and that's what we're seeing sort of play out here. A powerful energy going to be placed onto that Lugia V-Star for turn as well, and here we go, that Archeops being promoted into the active spot, taking out the Manaphy as well, so no more bench protection here on Riley's side, taking a prize card for that Manaphy and going into a Luminion V on Riley's side, promoting it into the active and starting off with an Evolution Incense to search out a evolution Pokemon.
Looks like Lugia V-Star will be the grab. I do think there were a couple Archeops in the hand, or at least one, with one already being in the discard pile. So Riley's going to be feeling pretty good about this spot. We'll see what options he has to get that last Archeops in the discard pile and where these energies go. Luminion, as Aqua Return, is an okay attacker, but it doesn't knock out the Archeops.
Yep. All right, so we are seeing the capture energy come into play here, which allows you to search out a basic Pokemon and put it straight onto your bench. Of course, Riley also looking through the deck, as we've said before. Ooh, I did see that Raikou in there, Chip, for Riley. It looks like it was being eyed up a little bit there as well. You know, of course, that Manaphy is still in play as well on Piper's side, but any basic Pokemon, Oranguru is being put to the front too. Another great card that protects you in so many scenarios in this game, but it's going to be a Lugia V chosen for Riley, put onto the bench there.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Two prize attackers all over the board here right now, Chip.
Yeah, Archeops is just kind of an awkward Pokemon to knock out as Riley, or just in the mirror match in general. It looks like Radiant Charizard coming down. That could be the attacker of choice. Riley just wants to get this other Lugia V, knowing that it might have to be where he goes to close this one out.
And we are going to see that Summoning Star ability from Riley to get out those Archeops. Yeah, like you said, Chip, 150 HP, kind of an awkward HP to have, but we're seeing that first Primal Turbo here from Riley, attaching a V-Guard energy to protect from any V Pokemon attacks there.
You try to make it as difficult as possible for Piper to get the knockout on Lugia V-Star. It is still possible, obviously, you know, the main way being Evital, but you could reach for a big knockout with Lugia V-Star if you got all of your powerful energies and Choice Belt, but if Piper has the Aurora energies remaining, I think Evital is going to be a pretty good response to this Lugia V-Star.
Yeah, and it is on the board looking very threatening as well, Chip. That is a huge part of this game too. You want to make sure you are assessing your danger levels, the threats that are on board that you're up against right now on Riley's side. But we are going to see the promotion of that Lugia V-Star into the active with all those energies. So many energies, it's hard to even lay out on the board here.
Riley will figure out what order these cards go in eventually. And this Lugia now coming into the active will take the knockout. One prize going to Riley, tying this game up. But Piper's board position, even though she's only got one Archeops, is going to be quite a bit stronger.
Yeah, and of course, I think that is two powerful energies as well on Riley's active Lugia V-Star too, so doing even more damage too. But of course, Evital doesn't care about that V-Guard energy that is on it. As you said, Chip can just take the knockout regardless, as long as the energy requirement is there for Evital. That Archeops being utilized over on Piper's side now for 2 Aurora energy.
She was debating for a second getting the V-Guard energy, maybe to protect against a potential Luminion, make it harder for Riley to respond to this Evital, force him to attack with the Charizard a little earlier, but thought better of it and just chose to get the other Aurora energy. Wanted to hold off on attaching the one in hand, potentially.
All right, so we're seeing the Luminion come out of the deck here on Piper's side. Of course, when it goes to the bench, if it goes to the bench, it allows you to search out a supporter card from your deck.
Yep.
So really it gets you out of a lot of sticky situations. I mean, we kind of saw Riley utilize it pretty much perfectly in the beginning of this game to make sure that he could actually have cards for the first turn that he took. So yeah, that is major. And we are going to see that knockout here from Piper's side, taking that Lugia V-Star out of play and taking 2 prize cards for it as well.
So Riley can respond to this with the Luminion if he wants and hold off on utilizing the Charizard until maybe a little later. And it does appear like Luminion will be the promotion at a minimum. You know, it does have that one retreat. We saw Riley promote it last turn and then just retreat it off with a capture, but he will have the option to attack with it here if he wants.
Yeah, most definitely. We will see what Riley decides to do here. But Piper, I think just having still a really strong board state here and only 3 prize cards left as well for Piper to take. Riley bringing out the double fish here, Chip. That second Luminion V hitting the bench here, allowing Riley to search out another supporter card. It is going to be that Marnie, and if it's played, that's going to be even more disruption over on Piper's side as well.
Yep, and Riley is getting the energy in play necessary to take the knockout with the Aqua return. One more use of the Archeops will get another energy onto the Charizard, get that ready to be a potential attacking threat. And then combining this play with the disruption of Marnie, when Piper has not been using a Rangaroo or anything like that to prep the top card of her deck, that could be potentially devastating.
Yeah, and that is what we're about to see right now, Chip. It's definitely going to come down to this. It's a huge pivotal moment in this game, but Piper has kind of had the luck on her side so far. That other Marnie playing into the exact card she needed. I can't really see what's in the hands for her here, but Riley drawing into 5 cards off that Marnie, Piper drawing into 4. And we are going to see the promotion of that Lugia V-Star after the knockout there on the Yveltal.
Looks like Piper does have some play, though. Quick Ball can get any basic out of the deck, and it seems like Luminion for Boss's Orders is the immediate grab on Piper's side of the field. Wants to chase down a 2-prize Pokemon so that all she needs to do to close this game out is take a 1-prize knockout on anything on Riley's side of the field.
Yeah, it's coming down to this, Chip. We could see this game go to a 1-1 potentially between these players in the mirror match. We're seeing the Boss's Order there on that Lugia V being promoted into the active.
Yep, and that brings that up. And Piper will also throw a couple energies onto this Lugia V-Star, dealing 280 damage right now with its Tempest Dive attack, 220 base, and then 3 powerful energies, more than enough to KO just the basic Lugia V here.
Yeah, absolutely. Such a powerful move. If there was a stadium in play, it also allows you to discard that stadium. You have the option to as well, which is huge. So yeah, Lugia V-Star, I mean, you can begin to see why this deck is so powerful. You pretty much have access to whatever Pokemon you have in your deck that you can get out and you can play whenever you want because of that Archeops. And look at that, Chip. We are going to see the scoop up there. And Piper is going to take this to a 1-1 here to be in, but it has to work. So here we go, our prize cards. There was that Raikou V I saw on Riley's side in the prize cards.
Yeah, that Raikou and that Yveltal, those amazing rare Pokemon, both of them being in the prizes is going to be a little awkward potentially for Riley. And he does top deck that Evolution Incense, I believe, allowing him to get the Archeops, which is going to be very nice. Get that in the discard pile so that if Piper does launch a Marnie this turn, that's already down. That's one piece of the puzzle solved. You're not having to get 2 Archeops down off of just a 4 or 5 card hand. Yeah,
that is definitely big. So really the setup is like we've been discussing. You hope to have a strong setup. Of course, Riley going first, can't play a supporter, so is really only able to get as many Pokemon down as possible. Of course, that Lugia V being the most important to get down onto the field here. And then those Archeops in the discard pile. That's what Riley's looking for, as well as, you know, an energy attachment would be great too. But as long as you have those pieces, you're in a pretty good position to line up your cards. And of course, there was a Professor's Research I think I saw in Riley's hands too. So the next turn is going to be great there for Riley.
Has the double turbo, could put it onto the bench Lugia, also could attach it to the active Luminion. So you have the option to either Aqua Return or just retreat next turn. More than likely it'll be used to retreat, since Riley would love to take a 2-prize knockout on Piper's active Lugia V, but we'll see how things develop.
And there we go, just the energy attachment for turn and the pass back over to Piper here, starting off with an Ultra Ball, discarding one of those Archeops, so we're going to see that hit the discard pile there. I believe that is also, is that a Lost Vacuum, I think, also
Yes.
for that discard. So going into the deck, searching out any Pokemon, of course, that, that Archeops is a very easy pick, I think, for Piper there, especially when you have a discard card in your hand like that Quick Ball, to just be able to discard it right away and go back into the deck for another basic Pokemon. Even now, if Piper didn't have some sort of supporter, you could always just go for that Luminion and get the supporter. Like we said, if you get that Marnie and you're able to disrupt, that is huge. So that might be what we see. The Luminion is going to come down, but it is going to be a Professor's Research here on Piper's side. So maybe something in the hand that she must be okay with being able to discard here and get 7 fresh cards into the hand.
I think this is Piper probably valuing her own setup a little more than worrying about disrupting Riley, because she is feeling pressured right now to put a second Lugia V down, because if she does not, and Riley just knocks out the one Lugia V, then the game is all but over on Piper's side of the field. So she would rather try to draw as many cards as possible and increase her chances as much as possible to find another Lugia V than anything.
And I think that's a really smart decision. That's so important for Pokemon players to do. You know, if you pay too much attention to the disruption side and then you're stuck on your side, you're not going to win the game. So it's always very important to make sure you can set up your board state first, prioritize that first, and get a strong setup. But we did see that Dunsparce come down, and then the retreat of that Lugia V back to the bench. No second Lugia V there for Piper, and we're back over on Riley's side.
Yep, but Riley's not going to be able to punish here. He doesn't have a boss or a Serena to bring up that Lugia V. Just going to have to be content with the research, and you know, as long as he can just keep ahead here, he's going to feel just fine. Does have the option to even Aqua Return with that Luminion here, as off of this research, he was able to find plenty of ways to get this second Archeops in the discard pile.
Yeah, there's more than one definitely in there, and it looks like it's going to be a Quick Ball to get it into the discard pile and search out another Pokemon from the deck. What do you think Riley's searching for here, Chip?
Could try to get the Guru, try to establish that pretty quickly. It's been a card that many players opt for in order to try to counteract potential Marnies. Could eye up a second attacker, maybe even Manaphy could be decent, knowing that Piper plays the Raikou Amazing Rare in her list, though I don't think there's much that the Raikou is going to be threatening unless you bench the Guru initially, so it does look like Guru will be the choice.
So many options here, but we are going to see that little monkey come down onto the bench here, and we are going to see that V-Star Power ability, Summoning Star as well, for game here, taking out those Archeops from the discard pile and straight onto the bench. So 2 Archeops here, the optimal, of course, what you want to see, so you can accelerate as many energy as possible to your Pokemon each turn. Such a strong card. And now we're going into an Evolution Incense here on Riley's side, searching out an Evolution Pokemon from the deck, another Archeops, even though you're not able to take it out later down the line, because of course you can only use 1 V-Star power per game. It's still important to make sure you're thinning it through your deck so you're not drawing into that pretty much dead card from your deck.
Yeah, not going to be a useful card, and if Riley wants to play Ultra Ball, you'd rather Ultra Ball away the Archeops and something else than Ultra Ball away the Evolution Incense and leave the Archeops in your deck. So really smart decisions and sequencing here from Riley.
Definitely, and that's what we're going to see, that Ultra Ball with the discard of those 2 cards and searching out another Pokemon. This can be any Pokemon from Riley's deck here, opting to go for the Manaphy. As we discussed, Chip, not a bad idea. Of course, we know that Piper does play that Raikou. Also, at this point in time, I'm sure Riley has already identified that the Yveltal and the Raikou are in the prize cards for him too. So
all of his attackers.
I know, right? Yeah, and that can actually get into some really sticky situations down the line if Riley's not able to draw them out of the prize cards. But I believe they're kind of varied. I think they're actually in the upper tier of the prize cards, so I don't know. We'll see how
I think the Yveltal was down at the bottom, so there's a decent shot he can grab it off of one of his early prizes. Is going to use the Primate Wisdom first, though, before shuffling in with the Luminion V.
Yep, so being able to switch one of the cards in your hand with one of the top of your deck.
Looks like he wanted to put the V-Guard energy back into the deck so that he could search it out with the Archeops.
Yeah, that is another really great way that Oranguru comes into play. When you need to get those energies back into the deck in order for you to get them out with the Archeops is super important there. So we are going to see that Luminion V using that Aqua Return, which allows you to pretty much just jump back into the deck here for Riley after taking a knockout there on that Dunsparce. So now we are taking that prize card. It wasn't the Yveltal, but we're so close to that Yveltal being drawn in that next prize card, most likely for Riley. Now we're over here on Piper's side of the field. We're going to start off with an Evolution Incense, searching out an evolution Pokemon from the deck. Lugia V is still on the bench here. No energy cards in play, no V-Star yet, no Archeops yet, but there's a lot of cards to be played here on Piper's turn.
Just going to thin out an Archeops. It looks like there's already the Lugia V-Star in hand, and we know that there's two Archeops in the discard pile already, so Piper has plenty of choices, plenty of ways that she can try to thin things out. And yeah, Riley knows that Piper is chilling on a pretty good hand if she's choosing to discard a Lugia V-Star right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're about to see Mons come down onto the field here for Piper.
So Piper does have an option here to go for Stoutland if she wants to, and that is what she is debating going with. Because Riley chose to send up the Manaphy here, this is a way that Piper could try to counteract that. Now Piper has an option to go for a 2-2-2 prize race line, especially since Manaphy goes down. You have the option to Raikou for 2 prizes later on. So what Piper is trying to set up here is take 2 prizes on Manaphy, take 2 prizes on Lugia V-Star, and then use Raikou's amazing shot to close things out.
Yeah, that Stoutland is so great. As I mentioned before, Chip, in this mirror match, it can come in very clutch in these certain positions that we're seeing Piper in now. Of course, loading it up with that powerful energy so you can boost its attack. The Double Dip Fangs only does a base of 40 damage, so it's really important to take knockouts with those powerful energies stacked up onto it. And if you're able to take an additional prize card off of a 1 prize Pokemon, that's huge.
Absolutely. I mean, the whole reason that Riley wanted to send up this Manaphy is that Piper would only get 1 prize off of KOing it, but now she's going to yield 2 from it. And this sets up nicely, like I mentioned, for Piper potentially to get back into this one. It's going to put a little bit more pressure on Riley. So Piper's really found a good strategy here in this matchup where she went second.
Here we go. MVP Doggo with the 3 powerful energies on there, being able to take 2 prize cards off of that Manaphy. Huge play here from Piper's side of the field, and we're going to go back over to Riley to see now how he responds to what just happened there.
So something Riley could theoretically do in a spot like this would be try to boss an Archeops. If you take a boss KO on Archeops here, your opponent actually doesn't have the option to get Yveltal set up in 1 single turn.
Yeah, so definitely slowing down the deck for sure. That's why you see Lugia players, the optimals, always having those 2 Archeops to make sure that you can line any of your Pokemon up with whatever energy you pretty much need. But definitely taking one of those out is a strategy we've seen time and time again from these Lugia players as well, because that hinders your opponent so much. So that is most definitely a play Riley could come up with here in this turn. We shall see. Going through the deck right now here on Riley's side, addressing all, or looking at all of the energy that are still left in the deck, choosing to attach 2 capture energies onto that Lugia V-Star. Of course, if they're not attached from hand, the effect does not activate. So if they're coming out from the Archeops, they're just being attached as a colorless energy. But that's a-okay, because Lugia V-Star needs it to do its attack. So we are good on that front. So 1 Archeops down, 1 more to go, but no alternate attackers. Of course, you could put the energy onto an Archeops as well, if you really
give yourself the retreat option. I think Riley may have something else in hand, though, that he wants to debate. He's got an Ultra Ball, so maybe he wants to get a different Pokemon, potentially. Ultra Ball could find the Luminium for the boss play if he wants it. I do think Piper, I can't quite tell. I think she's down her 4th powerful colorless. I think it got discarded on turn 1. So if that's the case, there is no threat of Double Dip Fangs taking a multi-prize KO next turn, because Oranguru has 120 hit points. So if Piper is down that last powerful colorless, that would not be an option. Looks like, though, Riley will just take the KO on the active. And now Piper has that Yveltal opening.
Yeah, and that is going to be huge here for Riley. Taking that Evital out of the prize cards now, Piper being able to respond as well to this. Luminion V being positioned into the active spot. Evolution Incense searching through the deck here. I believe nothing was retrieved from it though, so just shuffling up now. And what are the cards that Piper had left in hand, Chip?
Yeah, that's the big question here. We'll see what else she has access to. Is sitting on a Lugia V. That's not great. Looks like
Ooh, there's
Serena to draw cards. Just 4 cards off the top. Looking for some help.
Definitely. There's an energy, a quick ball of Marnie there. Of course, can't play more than one supporter per turn, so those supporters aren't going to be helpful this turn. We are going to see the quick ball discarding the Marnie though, so I suppose helpful as the discard fodder there to that quick ball, searching out a basic Pokemon from the deck.
Yeah, and this is what Piper is wanting to set up here. She's got the Evital and is going to get that into play. Now the question is, where do her last 2 prize cards come from? And I think that's where it's going to be tough, because if you're putting 3 different types of energy on the Evital here, you're putting 2 Auroras and the Heat Fire, or 3 Auroras, whatever combination it might be, you actually don't have enough energy in the deck to even attack with Raikou to close out the game potentially.
Oh no.
She doesn't have a Speed Lightning or anything like that to try to fuel that extra requirement. So in theory, she could have gone on the next turn and bossed an Archeops and KO'd both Archeops and Oranguru for her last 2 prizes. But in practice, that's just not going to be an option because there's just not enough energies in the deck.
Yeah, that is definitely a sticky situation to be in for sure, but we are going to see those 2 energy right now being put onto that Evital, of course, lining it up to be able to take this knockout on the Lugia V-Star for this turn. It's going to be huge for this turn. Of course, the Luminion V already able to retreat out of the active position with that capture energy, so no issues there for Piper. But yeah, definitely down the line, what are we going to see is the question here. Oranguru now coming down onto the field. Ooh, no, actually going to be subbed. And subbed again. Yeah, that's tough. Radiant Charizard, though, is going to come down versus that Oranguru onto the bench here, of course. As Riley takes more prize cards, the cost of that attack does go down for the Radiant Charizard. But at a minimum, you still have to have the requirement of the fire energy. So that can be subbed for an Aurora energy, or the heat energy is fine too. But that is part of the cost for that Radiant Charizard. But we are going to see that knockout here from that amazing destruction. Amazing it definitely is. From that Evital, taking out that Lugia V-Star with no damage. Absolutely wild to see. And one of the major reasons Lugia is such a good deck because of this Evital. So that is huge. Taking another 2 prize cards, going down to 2 prize cards. Riley, of course, at 3 here as well. And we're going to see the Ultra Ball discarding that Stoutland and the Raikou here from Riley's side.
Yep, this could fetch a Luminion potentially, though I don't know that Riley wants to put a 2-prize Pokemon in play. That's kind of his lose condition at this point. He would only go with the Luminion if he wanted to use Aqua Return, and Piper, to play around with that smartly, put the V-Guard energy down, so that's not even going to be an option for Riley. Looks like Charizard could just be the grab here.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we're going to see. I don't know what else would come down here for Riley. Potentially, because like you said, Chip, you don't want to put a 2-prize Pokemon because that is a sure way to lose the game.
So here's what has to happen for Riley. If Riley wants to win this game, he needs to knock out this Evital this turn, and then on his next turn be able to use Boss's Orders or Serena in order to bring up either the Lugia V-Star or the Luminion V on Piper's bench in order to close the game out. So he's going to do everything in his power to make sure that that is as high of a possibility as humanly possible. That it literally, no matter what Piper does, she can't play him out of that. So if he's got a Quick Ball or Luminion or Boss in his hand, I totally expect to see him use Primate Wisdom to put that on top of the deck, and it does appear that Serena is sitting there in his hand.
Yep, we're going to see that second Archeops, that Primal Turbo coming into play here for Riley as well. Getting those energy needed. Looks like the hiding energy and a double turbo being eyed up here. Aurora was also put to the front, but those are the 2 that are going to be placed onto that Evital.
Yeah, Riley doing everything possible to make sure that there's no boss's orders, stall plays available to Piper to try to draw the game out as long as possible. He is really trying to think through every possible scenario here to make sure that he's not going to miss out on anything. And he's actually even has the extra powerful energy in hand to bring up Luminion here and will take the knockout, needing just one more prize to close this out.
Yeah, that is huge. A 2 prize card knockout there for Riley. Going down to 1 prize. Piper still at 2 prize cards here and only eyeing down 1 prize Pokemon at this point in time. So this is getting spicy, Chip, that is for sure.
Yeah, and there's really not much play here for Piper. She's got the Raikou, which if there was enough energy in the deck to close this out, that would win her the game. She could knock out the Archeops, which is weak to lightning, and knock out either a Ringaroo or Yveltal on the bench. But with only 1 or 2 Aurora energies remaining in the deck, there's just no way that she can make that work. Just going to have to bench the Ringaroo instead.
And this has come down to the wire. We're only at 1 minute and 12 seconds left on the clock as well. So this is finishing up just in time here so far for this match, but it has gone all the way. We're just gonna see the knockout there on that Archeops.
And all Riley needs is enough energy in the deck, and he'll be able to close this out. Primal Turbo fetches
Here we go.
1 Aurora energy. And is there another one? I think he did draw 1 for turn, but does have the Heat Fire. That will be enough for amazing destruction to KO the Yveltal. And Riley Hubert wins this game.
Wow, what a match there. The grindy Lugia V-Star mirror match. But Riley is going to take the win against our 2-time this season regional champion, Piper Lepine. So congrats.